People don't change to suit their god. They change their god to suit them. Hello and welcome to Liam's Lyceum. I'm your host, Liam, aka Himvar, and today I'll be doing a spoiler-free review of Steven Erikson's Toll the Hounds. Toll the Hounds is a 2008 novel by Steven Erikson in Book 8 in Malazan, Book of the Fallen. Maybe the most divisive one in the series, as it is largely narrated by Krupp, and it becomes increasingly obvious as the book progresses. This isn't immediately obvious, though, so the normal thick prose is simply more long-winded, and eventually falls into lots of musings, reverie, rumination, internal monologue, essentially. I really enjoyed it, honestly, though. Like before, it feels more thematically and comic, kind of like Ed Greenwood, but more literary than Ed Greenwood. Lots of silly things happen, and there's lots of immolation. In parts, the absurdity is really well executed, and there's lots of catchy phrases, and done in pithy ways that kind of reminded me of Jack Vance, even. This one is sexual, unsurprisingly, but, it's been about, it's been about 8.5 months since I read the previous book in the series, Reaper's Gale, so I'd kind of forgotten some of Erikson's ways. I still wish the book wasn't so long, and, that he had subverted epic fantasy in that way, by just making it shorter, but alas. Same with the divinities. It's much more in the vein of mad interlopers like Crom or Woden than, something like the benevolent Christ. But not everything has to be like that. It's just crazy that literally every deity in this world is, well, crazy. Anyways, the prologue begins the oddness, right? Two people are walking dogs, which start fighting. They don't recall ever owning dogs and realize in the deserted settlement that they're probably dead. Edgewalker shows up, and then Shadow Throne with his Hounds of Shadow. Elsewhere, the sword Dragnipur, the wizard Pale, a wizard ape of Pale rather, fights his chains, and the wagon is now full and slows down, so the storm grows closer. Apsalara, an ascendant called the Lady of Thieves, who is not the same as Apsalar, wishes she could escape her own chains. In a Urid village, a three-legged god's touch dog departs, and two young women of the Templar follow. And then Krupp and Karul chat and are once joined by a stranger. Krupp begins to tell a story. The book then falls into 4 parts, or books, right, with a bookend, epilogue, and prologue, of course, that we've already talked about. So we have Darujstan dealing with assassins, retired bridge burners, Cole, Krupp, Murillo, even Dweeker, I don't know how I say his name, the historian from Deadhouse Gates. We also have Chalice Darl, now married, who contemplated her life and her goals. The jewelry stolen way back in Book 1 by Crocus now seems gaudy to this more mature woman. There's also Karsa, Ganel's parent, etc., etc., etc. So many characters. With the first 7 novels of story, it feels like we're getting a sort of finale now, though not really at all still, because, this book is long and there's 2 big long ones still afterwards. And there's lots of Malazan books after that. We also have Black Coral. It's the new home of the Tistandi after the crashing of Moonspawn. It's been a year since that event and the defeat of the Panian Seer at Coral. And Salon is Castellan of the New Palace, and Spinnik Darab is in the Scour Tavern, playing a game of Kef Tamar with a human named Seerdomen. Sounds a lot like RuneScape's Seerdomen, but anyways. Clip brings Namander, Golitz, and other Tistandi back from Curled Ghislaine, and we learn of some unrest under Andi rule, as well as the madness on Assail being self-contained and no concern for Animandarake. Also, Solana, a dragon most mortals think is a statue, is contemplating and thinks she needs to put the fear back into said mortals. A certain tiger face tattoo, it sounds like Gullyfoil, though it's actually Gruntle, of course, shows up. There are many characters to mention here. Mondamer Cutter, Iskrull Puss, Mampo Runt, also Ralik Nam is awoken by a kick to the face from Raced. I really appreciate the post-structuralist method here, And things appear and disappear. There's new characters come and go, and many make returns, but their stories don't follow traditional story arcs, right? Just kind of show up as, well, they do. They still tend to be satisfying, though it feels off at times because of this, which is, I would say, almost certainly intentional. At times the story just does seem to be stitched together vignettes, though you can see it all coming to a head, right, with these convergences. So looks at memory are nice in similar ruminations. The book is full of awful things and scary things and very unholy things, but it is to be contrasted with the good, right? The focus isn't on the bad, it's actually on the good that peeks through the bad. It was a little depressing, when compared to the medieval works I was reading around the time, which, are similarly bloody, but, always stop to, praise the saints or Christ or something, or the Virgin Mary, I guess, in particular. Other times I find Malazan very inspiring, but I think I need to be tuned into some postmodernism and maybe depression in other ways of my life, which, of course, I think it works, right? And, with something like, my work situation or money, right? Always how it works. But I guess I'm not feeling particularly suffocated by it right now. It's also spring after, a long winter, and so some life has returned to the land, so maybe that is why I did not feel so attached to these ruminations that, just are pretty typical in Malazan anyways. But there's lots of great stuff that happens, lots of great musings too, and I mean like really big events, very explosive, extra lunar events, so to speak. How vague can I be? Let's see. Lots of great musings, some cool deaths. It's just got a lot in general, right? It's a Malazan novel. It does take a little while to get going, but very big book, and it did not feel like a waste of time, even though it is very big. So if you haven't already, which I feel like most of you watching this have probably read all the Malazan books at this point, I would say it's a good time to come and witness this convergence. Anyway, the link from Liam's Lyceum, I will catch you next time.